This isn't going to be one of my usual videos. I wrote this the day after I had to put my dog Maggie down, and it's been a few days later, and I've just been going over and over in my head. Do I do this? Can I do this? Can I talk about this? I don't know. This is totally uncharted new territory for me on the channel. So many emotions are still so fresh in my mind that as a storyteller, I don't know, I felt it was my duty to write them down and remember them. We had her for the whole of her 12 years, and I'm still trying to process, what happened yesterday and the aftermath. So I don't know if it's the right thing. I don't know if it's a good thing. I just don't know. But I'm going to do it, and here we go. Our dog Maggie had been sick for 2 years on and off. The cancer that we dealt with in 2016 had returned, and with it, this plethora of ailments and conditions. Conditions that we dealt with a bushel basket full of meds. Skin problems, thyroid problems, eye problems, ear infections, on and on and on. Now, anyone who has a Frenchie knows this is just part of the deal. The cuteness and the love comes with the medical burden of all the diseases endemic to this breed. Lots of trips to the vet, lots of powerful medicine we had to give her, and all the accumulated side effects. But our dog was tough, man. She kept going. But in the last 2 months, things had gotten worse. She developed cataracts in both her eyes that left her pretty much blind. She could see shapes, but only during the light of day. We'd find her facing the wall or hiding in the dark in the bathroom, and we didn't understand it. We didn't get it. But it turned out that this was the blindness manifesting itself. Somehow facing the wall for her made her feel safe. Then it got to where she could barely stand. She sort of lurched, bent over with her legs all twisted up, trying to keep her balance. And you notice these things, of course, but somehow you say to yourself, she's just getting old, man. This is just normal. But then the cancer started to really manifest. We found a bunch of dark tumors growing in her tail fold, and the actual growth on her butt where we had originally done the operation to extract the cancer the first time started growing again on the opposite side. And then this large cyst-like tumor started growing on her front foot between her toes, literally doubling and tripling in size in just a few weeks. My wife went on one of these Frenchie help support sites, and it happened to this person who put up pictures of it. And these pictures are really graphic, but I guess they illustrate the speed in which this cancer just manifests itself. So these pictures are really gnarly. So if you don't want to look at them, just pass, keep going. But this is just this dog, this Frenchie, in a couple of weeks' time. If you'll notice the little spot under her left eye, and then 2 weeks later, it's this thing on her face, and then just another week or two later, it was this huge tumor on her face, on her eye, and she's freaking out, and she's just, what do I do? What do I do? The doctor wants to take her eye out and half of her face. They want to just remove half of her face. What does she do? What do you do? You know what I mean? It's thousands of dollars, and there's no quality of life. What do you do? Our dog had this thing on her foot, and she was bleeding out from under her front foot from blood blisters. So our whole house had to be covered in pee pads and towels. And we did the Epsom salt baths. We tried the DMSO. We tried to soak it. And to make things worse, we'd lost all faith in our vet. They used to be really kind and compassionate years ago. And at one time, we felt they were giving us really good advice, but recently, things had gotten way more cold and corporate. We don't know what it is, they would say. Let's run this battery of tests. We could never get a straight answer out of them, except when it came to the billing portion. Eye stains, skin tests, 20 different allergy meds. Let's try this shot. Let's try this shot. Let's try 12 weeks of antibiotics, the skin meds, the allergy meds, the thyroid meds. I mean, looking back on pictures from her just from a few years ago, so many of them were with the cone on because we were forced to put her through hell so she wouldn't lick the poison shit that we were forced to put on her all the time. I mean, it's f***ed up when you don't trust what you're hearing from your vet. You know what I mean? Having to question all the time whether they're in it for your dog's health or they're just in it for the fucking money. Sadly, we thought the latter. We were told the fact that it took 6 years for this cancer to come back was in itself a miracle. And it's personal. My wife has had to deal with the majority of Maggie's medical problems because of my job. Because I'm on the road every weekend of every month of every year. She's the one who has had to shoulder most of this. The panicked phone calls to me from 1,000 miles away. What do we do? She's in pain. What do we do? And it hurts. I mean, you can hear it in her voice, and I'm not there. The dog's in constant pain, and you're just not there. Our dog is 12 years old now, which is pretty old for a Frenchie. She's blind. She's got cancer. She's suffering. You gotta man up, bro. You gotta man up, Jizzo. Be the fucking adult in the room and do the right thing, even though it's the hard thing. It's what you and your wife had discussed for the last 2 years, but have up to now successfully avoided. I'm looking at the dog right now. I'm picturing the dog. She's looking at me with these innocent eyes with her paw up in the air. She's got a fucking tumor on her paw the size of a plum. Man up, motherfucker, man up. So we did. We finally did. We called a vet service that comes to the house. What's the procedure? How is it done? I wasn't going to take her to that accursed veterinarian killing room with the stainless steel table and the smell of 1,000 deaths. Dogs can sense these things. I wasn't going to have my dog's last moments be one of terror and confusion and betrayal. We were going to honor her life. If she had to die, and it kills me right now to even say this, but if she was going to die, she was going to die at home, surrounded by love and safety. And when she did slip away, it was going to be just like she was going to sleep. This was something I could do. This was within my power. I couldn't cure the cancer at this advanced stage, but I could at least ease the suffering for my wife's constant companion for 12 years. So the vet comes to the house, right? Came off a little new agey at first. Well, I sort of came off how I usually do when I'm in a super stressed situation. I try to control everything. Here's what I think we should do. I think we should try and distract her. We should do this. We should do that. I'm standing there babbling. But the vet knew better. He let me rant for a while, and then he smiled and he said it would be all right. The vet told us that the first shot was going to put her to sleep, but that she would still be able to hear us and feel us. So I picked her up and I turned her around, and quickly this vet just gives her the jab. Really quick. She didn't even know what happened, man. And so she's walking around in a circle for about 30 seconds, and then she sort of just flopped down on her stomach and fell asleep. I mean, we could hear her snoring, and I'm watching this all silently. I'm watching it go down, and I'm thinking, we're really going to do this, man. This is really happening. So I picked her up, gingerly, and I laid her down on a rug that we had set down in the middle of the room. And for about 5 minutes, my wife and I we petted her, we stroked her, we whispered in her ear how much we loved her. And, she heard us, man. She felt our touch and she heard us. And this, I guess, was exactly how I wanted it to be. The best possible way that it could be. This was my way of honoring her for all the love she had given us. I put my head down next to her head and I hugged her, and I confess, I cried like a bitch. Anyone who knows me knows I'm not a crier, but I couldn't help it. I just unloaded on her. I covered her in love. I told her she was going to be chasing frisbees in the park, and she'd be running like crazy like she used to. She was going to be healthy. She's going to be happy, free to shit up like she always did. And, maybe 5 minutes passed with us like this, holding her, holding each other, talking to her. Then when it was time, the second shot was administered, and we held her again, and she slipped away. She slipped away. It was quick. There was no pain. And most importantly, there was no fear. We should all be as lucky when it's our time. She was there and she was gone, but I couldn't let go. I kissed her face. I was hugging her. And I remember just saying over and over, don't go, don't go. So afterwards, we wrapped her up in some blankets that my wife had crocheted for her. Over the years, there was 100 blankets. We wrapped her up like a little burrito, and we got in the car and we made the trip to the cremation service. I drove the car as my wife cradled Maggie in her arms, and she was rocking her back and forth, and her face was peeking out from under the blankets. And I just looked at her, and she looked like she was sleeping. I just thinking, no more pain, man. No more pain. We carried her into the cremation service, and they were totally good with us. They were totally gentle. They were totally cool. I had to talk with the guy, and I had to do all the paperwork, but I kept touching Maggie under the blanket because she was still warm. I kept thinking, she's still warm. She's still warm. I'm rubbing her thinking she's still warm. She's still here. But she wasn't. She wasn't. Her soul, or whatever you want to call it, her spirit had already left. But I kept stroking her and pushing my face next to her. I'm so sorry. I love you. I love you. And then it was time to go to an empty house, right? I threw away all the bloody pee pads that we had laid on the floor. I went in the cabinet and I took the shampoo and the 36 medication bottles, the eye stuff, the ear stuff, the allergy stuff, all of it. I threw it away. My wife isn't ready to give away her toys. There was toys all over the house. We're not giving them away. Not now. So we spent the rest of the day, my wife and I, sort of reassuring ourselves that we did the right thing. Guilt, remorse, those emotions. While it was happening, I kept thinking to myself that this was like a Viking funeral. The ceremony, the last bath, the last push around the neighborhood, the last meal. All the time hugging her and talking to her, hoping she would understand what she meant to us. From the time we first got her at 10 weeks, she could fit in my hand. She was as small as a hamster. The growing pains, the barking, the mischief, those horrendous Frenchy farts. Through all the years of the broken leg operations, the 3 hernia operations, the cancer operations. But now, today especially, I remember the joy. I'm sad, but there was so much joy. She exuded so much joy for the whole of her life. I see it like that Benjamin Button movie before me, like a giant panorama. She embraced us with her quirkiness and her energy and her constant, unpredictable nature. Frenchies aren't like regular dogs, man. They have their own distinct personalities. Some might say spoiled brat personalities. Memories of her trying to bite my drummer's cymbals because she thought they were Frisbees. That never-ending expressive face that either looked like wise old Yoda or Droopy the dog and those bright eyes sparkling. You see, as I'm writing this right now, I'm stuck on a plane. I'm going to a gig when I should be home with my wife, but I can't be home. I have a gig. I always have a gig to go to. It's a f***ed up thing, but the show must go on, and life must go on. We have to slowly try to let Maggie go, and I can't imagine it. She was such a part of our lives, because as I write this, and every time I read it, I reread it, I remember it, and it's real again to me. The curse of being a writer is reliving things. She was a bright and shining fixture in our lives, and you know something? Maybe by talking about it publicly on the channel, it can help some people out there who are in the same position as we were, not wanting to do what needs to be done. Trust me, I'd much rather have my dog back. F***ed up. I would much rather have her back. Sick as she was, my house is empty and my heart is just torn the f*** up. I wish I could have her back, but I can't. It's not about what I want, because that is selfish. Sometimes the right thing is the hard thing, and the hard thing hurts like f***. My take the day I wrote this is just sadness. I'm sad. But in time, I guess I'll be less sad. My wife will cry in the night. She'll get up at 3 a.m. a few more times to go check up on a dog that is no longer there. Then she'll cry some more. But she too will get better over time, because she's a strong and awesome woman. The moments remembered, cherished, like a book full of memories that you can look at, joy and laughter in her funny face and her antics. I'm going to include some of these in this video afterward, to see and enjoy, I guess. I didn't want to end this episode on a bummer note. So amazingly, as I finished writing it, something, good happened. When we landed in Milwaukee, I called my wife, and she told me that she was half sleeping on the couch thinking about Maggie, and she had what could be called a lucid dream. She looked down and saw a vision of Maggie on the floor, a young Maggie, the Maggie that still had all her faculties. She watched Maggie stretching like she just woke up. She used to do this thing. She would put her front paws together in this stretch that we called praying. And she saw her. She just started praying, and then she flopped around on her back and she stuck her back legs straight out like a gazelle. This was what she always did when she woke up from a nap. And it made me feel, maybe it sounds stupid, but it made me feel that she was somewhere telling us that she went to sleep and just woke up on the other side. I know some of you think it's just my wife seeing what she wants to see. Maybe it was a vision. I don't know. Either way, I don't fucking care, because it made me feel better. I want to think that maybe she was telling us, hey, I'm okay. Now you got to be okay. You will be okay. You will be okay. And so that's what I'm going to think. Anyway, wow. Tropel Jizzo. Just trying to get through it, man. rocking and rolling. I'll see you next time. Prepare to be motorboated.
What do you have? Do you have a Christmas pickle?